Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being your show, we're talking about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Krypton. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, you have Adam and Seg, still dealing with the whole Brainiac situation. I love Adam being like, honestly, I couldn't kill you, even though you'd want me to because of the Brainiac situation. He's like, I can't even kill the bugs in my apartment. I've got like a lot of bugs in my apartment. But I really like this episode being a situation where it's like you have Seg and Brainiac kind of having face-to-faces inside of his head. It's like, because I like the fact is that Brainiac's like, oh, the fact is you intrigue me because the fact of the matter is you're fighting me off as much as you are. You know why? It's that will of yours. I don't know what it is about you, and it's like together we could do so much. I could give you immortality. It's like, you can shove your immortal life up your immortal ass. And it does make you want. I mean, he kind of alludes to it later on. It seems like everything that Seg cares about is what keeps him pushing forward, knowing that Nyssa, the mother of his child, is out there. His best friend, childhood friend growing up, Cam, as well as Lyta, are all motives to get back. Obviously, he wants to save Krypton too. It's like it's in his state that he wants to, it's his home, so he's going to fight tooth and nail, and that's what keeps him strong. Of like, he's not going to take Brainiac back there for because he also knows what his world's future is. Like if Brainiac got back, he'd take Kandor, and he knows what that would mean for Krypton, and he doesn't want that. It's like he's going to save his world, he's going to save his people. But I also like the fact is because of that relationship they have, like Brainiac can get inside of his head, but he can also get inside of Brainiac's, which is pretty dope. But I love it's like the whole plan is like they're going to like that chamber. It's like what happens here? It's like, oh yeah, like this is where Brainiac was born. It's like, so wait, so you're basically saying that the planet shit him out? He's like, no. But then Seg's like, actually, kind of, yeah, it works like that. It's kind of crazy to think that it's just kind of like to get all the components right, and you just kind of bleh. I mean, we actually think about it. It's a twisted way to look at something beautiful as, childbirth went on, yada, yada, yada. But it's like, I know it's not, but technically you're shitting out a human being. It's kind of interesting. But I guess this case is a little different because it's not like, like somebody was. It's literally the planet shit Brainiac out. So that's just kind of interesting in itself. But I love Adam being like, oh, we have to go. No, we must got the wrong place. Let's check the map or something. Just like, do you not? I guess, is he a little afraid of the dark? Or is it like, darkness means there's going to be some terrible stuff down there. So let's not even bother going. But it's like, okay, we got to go. So, but probably one of my favorite aspects of that whole entire thing on Kalu is the Lobo stuff. I love that Lobo's like, oh, I'm gonna get you, and then his arm gets cut off because he crosses a force field and he screams, ah, ah, and he starts laughing. I'm like, you're such a psychopath. I love it. And I didn't know he was that much of a psychopath. I wonder is that like a lot more like I said, it's been years since I've seen Lobo because I know he pops up in one of the Injustice games. I think it was a DLC character, or was he one of the original roster? I feel like that was in the first Injustice, wasn't he? I think it was one of the original characters, or was he DLC? Either way, other than that, like the only other experience, like I said, I've had with him is the 90s cartoon. Obviously, they're not going to go that crazy with him, but they went kind of off the wall balls crazy with him in this because like Adam's kind of living it up, being like, hey, you ain't going to get us. And then he's like, oh, don't think too much about that. And he takes a gun. I was like, what are you going to do? I was like, I don't know how you're planning on it. My thought was he was going to rip his head off and roll it in and then kind of regenerate like that. But it's like, I wasn't too far off. He blows his head off because I guess, like, as long as his body's still alive, he can't regenerate, well, to a certain extent. So the easiest way to just kill himself is just destroy his brain. And then, like, he starts regrowing. Like, the moment he did, I'm like, he's going to start regrowing from his arm because his arm's on the other side of the force field. So, which he proceeds to do because I love Adam kind of get freaked out. Adam turns and he's like half a torso. He's like his arm and the upper part of his chest and his head, and it's looking so weird and freaky. But I have to admit, I was like, dude, I just learned about Lobo's healing factor last episode, and now you're telling me that shit is stupid strong. That's some like Deadpool recovery. Holy shit. I mean, probably because I know Deadpool, like I didn't always know this, and I know I'm making a Marvel example, but it's the equivalency. I know, I'm sure there's probably a DC equivalent that I'm just not aware of, but like because Deadpool in the comic books, from what I've read and know about, like he's come back from some pretty gnarly stuff. So it's like to know that Lobo's on that same level, would have never guessed. It's like, holy crap, you are one tough customer. Holy crap. Kind of put Brainiac to its shame. I mean, Brainiac more operates in a sense almost like a parasite more than, But nevertheless, I love that he's attacking Adam, about to squish his head when he's literally just an upper torso and everything. Because Adam's almost like, I don't want to fight you. I mean, look at your condition. And then, like, Lobo's getting the upper hand of him, and he's literally got no lower. He's literally just a torso, and he's walking on his hands. I'm like, this is so twisted, weird, and I love it. It's so good. You just wouldn't expect that, If I were to see that on anything, I'd expect something twisted like that on something like DC Universe. Like, that's some, like, Doom Patrol level stuff of, like, something weird and wacky like that. That's some Doom Patrol stuff. But nevertheless, I love that whole situation. And I do like that, obviously, like I said, Seg is fighting Brainiac, because Brainiac's trying to utilize whatever he can. Because for Brainiac, it's like, oh, I know, like, I might not have feelings myself, I might not have emotions, but at the very least, I know how to analyze them, and so I know how to, basically, that's some Kingdom Hearts level stuff of like, oh yeah, might not have a heart, but I know how to break them, that type of situation, how to hurt them. As obviously be like, oh, disguise himself in this. So like I said, there's Kim, and then Lyta was the one that got him, because obviously Lyta's a woman he loves, and so there's a complicated situation. And it's, she's like, Brainiac's kind of sucking him in, but then he's like, yeah, the fact of the matter is, you're not going to win. Why? Because, you think you've kind of got it all figured out. Because the thing is, you kind of want me to let you think that, like, my hurt and pain can be just so easily, like, what I'm feeling right now can be so easily remedied, because you're coming at it from a robotic point of view of just like, oh, it's so, you're so calculated by it, but humans are so much more, well, obviously Kryptonians, but people are more complicated than that, And so he won't be seduced by that whole situation. Like, I know what this all is. And the fact of the matter is, the reason why you're acting like this is because you don't know emotions, but the emotion you're feeling right now is fear, because you're scared that I will win. Because he's like, oh, because he was chastising Seg, being like, oh, you actually think you're going to win. So, and it seems like he does. Seg, I guess it's not like, oh, he's using Brainiac's powers. I think it's just because it's like, yeah, his mind is so powerful, because, Brainiac's in a weakened state. Like, he has a lot of his faculties about him, his powers and stuff like that, but it shows in this moment, Seg's will is stronger than Brainiac, I guess, because luckily enough for him, he's also in a weakened state, so I'm sure that helps a lot too. But Seg was able to just kind of hold his hand out, like some Matrix shit, to hold him back. I love that kind of just like how they aesthetically did it, that freaking thing of like him kind of crossing between looking like Lyta and then himself. I thought that was kind of like aesthetically cool. And lo and behold, Seg wakes up, gets free of Brainiac, and him and Adam leave. Now, Lobo potentially kills Brainiac, but we've been through this situation before. We thought Seg did, so that's going to be interesting. Now, did Lobo actually do it, or did he take over Lobo's body? Now, the last thing you want is Brainiac, with his smarts and his abilities, inside of Lobo's body, who has that crazy-ass healing factor, superhuman strong, just kind of a powerful killing machine. It's like, I would assume, like, because Doomsday's got a crazy healing factor too. Because like Doomsday's whole thing is like adapting to every situation. You beat Doomsday, Doomsday just comes back even stronger, more prepared for you. So what worked on him before won't work again. So I feel like Lobo could probably go toe to toe with Doomsday. Probably same thing for Brainiac, but eventually Doomsday would just outwin him. Just that thing is legitimately a world killer, a world destroyer. So it kills anything in its path. Once again, it's killed Superman in the past. So I'm curious, like, how they would fare, especially because I feel like Lobo got possessed, and so it's gonna be interesting. Because the thing is, the difference is, once again, Lobo's kind of one-track mind. He's kind of a meathead. Seg, complicated, has a good head on his shoulder, has a strong will, so that kept him, from being completely consumed. But we'll see. Maybe Brainiac's straight up dead. I doubt it. I'm sure he possessed Lobo, but we'll see, because that's going to be very, very interesting seeing where that goes. And I do like, it's like, oh, Adam's like, hey, we made it back to Krypton. Oh, Seg's dead. Beats on his chest, and Seg's like, oh, why do I feel like I almost died? He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, wait, did I die? He's like, yeah, for a little bit. But hey, I brought you back. We're good. We're back on Krypton. Let's go save Kandor. Well, because all this complicated stuff is happening on Krypton. There's all the stuff with Lyta and Zod. It's actually kind of interesting and sweet to a certain extent, like, because there's one part of your brain that always looks at what Zod does. It's just kind of like, oh, you're a megalomaniac, in the sense that you want conquest, but at the same time, it's like, it's understandable, like, to a certain extent. For one, it's like you were literally genetically engineered to be, the Genesis Chamber made it so it's like, no, you're part of House Zod. Zod fights and protects Krypton. Krypton's no longer there. Of course, you're gonna fight tooth and nail to make obviously Krypton, on other planets when you terraform stuff. Like, so that's obviously his plan in the future and stuff like that. But obviously here in the past, it's like, I have the opportunity to save this planet. Of course, I'm gonna do whatever it takes. Because for him, it's like, because he also lost his mom to this, because like Lyta fell apart after Kandor because it was too much, because it was just a reminder of all that she lost. Kandor, the Sagittari, even said, so it took its toll on her until she finally died, But so for him, it's like saving Krypton is also about saving his mom, so she never has to go through that. But also it's about, once again, saving his home, a world that it's like this entire world got lost. Everything, this culture, this language, like certain pieces of that exist in the Fortress of Solitude of Cows, but other than that, and if you want to, depending on the continuity and where the time frame is, it lives on through Kara, but an entire civilization living through its two survivors, that's not enough of a planet to live on, and it's, especially because Zod's the one that's old enough to remember everything. Depends on what continuity you go with, but more often than not, Kara's a teenager at the time, so, it's something to think about, so it's also interesting too, because in his mind, it's like, oh, I knew what to do to save our planet, but no one wanted to listen, so obviously he's trying to make things happen now. But Light is kind of like, let me go out there and fight this situation. Let me be the one to kind of end this war between you and the Resistance. Like, I'm curious, legitimately, does Lyta fully embrace everything that Zod does? Because part of me was wondering, like, when it gets all said and done, is it going to be like, when she gets to Val in him, she's going to be like, actually, I'm on your side. I've been secretly playing Zod the entire time. Other stuff in the episode, the whole, like, Dev situation makes me think otherwise, but I'll get to that soon enough. But, it's also interesting, too, it never comes up, because I guess, once again, how people being born on Krypton works a little differently because of the Genesis Chamber and everything, but I was always wondering, it's like, oh, does he not want Lyta to go anywhere? Because if she dies, it's like, oh, there goes his future, he goes out of existence. That's what I thought the whole point was, but it's like, no, it's a situation of, like, he does legitimately just care about her, he wants to protect her, look after her, because for her, it's actually kind of interesting, because I guess you almost make the argument Lyta's the reason why Zod's the way he is. I mean, because of he saw how she was so broken about Kandor and just Krypton in general, but also like she's the one that kind of told him to kind of take more risk in certain regards, kind of more the higher risk, like high reward type of situation of like, I forgot what the exact wording was, but the way he kind of goes about willing to do whatever it takes, he kind of got that from Lyta. So it's, I guess the way Zod is in the future, I guess we can kind of chalk that out to Lyta. At least a version of Lyta, the one that has lost everything, understandably so, would kind of teach her son to kind of go down that route. So, I mean, it was kind of taught to her. So, like I said, it's kind of like this repeat. Like, Jaina taught Lyta like that, and Lyta ended up teaching Zod kind of like that to a certain extent, so it's interesting. So other than that, we have Nyssa, and it's so sad because you could tell she feels so bad because obviously she's having this like heart to heart with Val about like Corvex and everything. It's like, oh, Seg would be so proud of you, of like what you're fighting for your son like this, and it's like, I know that he's still out there, but he'd be so proud of the fact that you're doing this. And the fact is, she's like, oh, you sound so much like him. And Val's like, well, I am, older than him, so he sounds like me. And I just love that little cheekiness. But you can tell Nyssa feels bad about it because it's like, especially because they're putting, like, especially Val amongst anyone is putting his faith in. It's like, obviously this is for her child, but at the same time, because she even talked about it, it's like, so long people looked at her like her dad. It's like, oh, you're just like your dad. Seg saw something else in her, and now that he's gone, she kind of feels like she's back to not really knowing who she is. But Val's like, yeah, you know exactly who you are. Like, the fact is that you're here, you're helping, and the fact that you're willing to go so far for your son, said so much, but it's like knowing that she's betraying not only Val and that they're in the right in this situation, these are friends, these are allies, but also because it's like, oh, that's family, because that's Seg's family, so it just adds even more guilt upon her, even more so because she ends up sleeping with I'm blanking on her name, was it Arame, the commander, well, the person who had trained her before that she brought up back in season 1. Things just didn't work out. and it's like, oh, you kind of slept with her for information. It's like, oh, that sucks, because like obviously they have their complicated history, and you can tell she's like, I'm sorry if I like hurt you in any shape or form, and now it's like, she feels even more guilty upon it because it's like she's hurting more and more people, but hey, it's for her son's sake. What's interesting though is she saw something on those, like what she got from her, and I'm like, what was it she saw that kind of made Nissa go, oh god? Like, I guess she sees that whatever's going to, like, either it's something that Zod has in plan that he hasn't really talked to anyone else about, and they're planning to stop it, or whether she sees things kind of set up to be like, oh man, because the way things are set up, like Jax is kind of like, oh yeah, we're going to attack a certain spot, and it's like, as we can see, Cam is one of those people associated with that spot too, so it's like, oh man, because there's going to, it's like, oh, it's going to be a bloodbath, Jax says, and even Val's like, have mercy on our souls for what's going to have to be done, so maybe Nissa kind of realized that, and it's like, oh boy, so it's going to be interesting to see where things go down on that front. And then finally, there's also the Dev and Jaina situation. Obviously, Dev wanted to have nothing to do, because like Jaina, like, why'd you come back? She's like, I wanted to save Lyta, I wanted to stop Zod, I wanted to save Krypton, but like Dev wants to have nothing to do with that, which is interesting because like amongst everyone we've ever met, like Dev has a lot of honor. Like, he's a very honorable person. Yes, obviously he went down the coup route with Jaina when they were doing their coup again, with Darren and Nissa against the coup against the Voice of Rao. Yes, but still he has his honor. But the fact is he wants to have nothing to do with this. He doesn't want to have anything to do with Lyta, because for him it's like Lyta's not the same person anymore. And that's why I'm kind of like, that's why I'm so mixed up of whether or not Lyta is really like playing this, or she really shifted like this. Was it something she did on her own, or was it that Zod kind of warped her mind like he's doing other people? Does she even realize her mind has been messed with? And I kind of get the feeling like it has, and maybe she doesn't realize it. She's like, now you, or maybe she does realize it, and she's okay with it because it's like, no, this is for the sake of Krypton. So that's what I'm wondering about. And then you have, because Dev, feels like he lost everything, because what he believed in, the foundation of all that, is basically crumbled. The Sagittari, are now kind of like something for Zod to kind of weaponize. It's not even about protecting Krypton anymore, because obviously he wants to venture out and like basically conquer other worlds and stuff like that. And so Dev is like, everything he ever did and believed in was for the purpose of making his parents proud, and now it's like that's all tarnished. Like, what do I believe in anymore? He's lost, and Jaina's kind of there to end up helping him, so kind of potentially steer him back on the path. And I think Dev is going to be our look into what happened in those 6 months in between. Well, once again, technically 5 months since like the end of the season 1 finale to where we started off at the season 2 premiere. Like, we'll kind of, maybe he'll fill in some of those blanks, like Jaina will be out. Well, because we got a little taste with Adam, and, he kind of ends up filling Sagan, but even Adam doesn't know the entirety of everything that went down in that time frame. Dev would know more intimately than anyone. It's like why he ended up leaving and why Lyta stayed. Why did he stay with Lyta? What did he do that made it seem like he was a traitor? He might have actually even tried to kill Zod himself, and obviously Lyta got in the way, which is interesting if that ends up being the case, because obviously that's what happened with Jaina in the first place. Her and Zod were fighting, and Lyta chose her son over her mom. So it's a whole complicated mess. So I'm very interested to ultimately see where all of this takes us going forward into the next episode. It's so interesting because obviously like the major like picture for this season is like Seg, and then like literally the 4 main villains. I'm like, right, there are 4 main villains: Zod, Lobo, Brainiac, and Doomsday. It didn't click in my head. It like the thing like, man, you got a full roster of villains in this show, like some top tier villains, in fact, too. So it's like interesting to me to see that. Like, well, Lobo's not really a villain. He's more kind of his own thing, but he kind of plays a role of a villain, especially if he's on the Brainiac's control. So once again, it's all going to come down to how that situation played out. It'd be interesting if, like, no, he thinks he's not possessed by Brainiac, but he's like, oh, I found Craptown, and I followed you all the way back here or something. That could be what Lobo's story is, and it turns out, oh, he secretly ended up helping Brainiac get here, whether it was intentionally because Brainiac's been in control the entire time, or he unintentionally didn't know that Brainiac was there. Either way, it's going to be very interesting to see where the next episode takes us going forward with all of this, because there's going to be a lot of a lot of stuff is on collision course. Like obviously, he's going to see firsthand what Krypton's become, who Light has become, what his return means for the whole Zod thing, because it's like, oh, like, then you're going to be in opposition with your dad yet again, like to potentially in opposition with the man she loves yet again, and then Nissa's in a complicated situation. Oh, Seg's back, so now what do I do? There's going to be complications, and you know, like I said, where Kim falls in this, whether he comes out of this okay, you hope so, but we'll see. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.